Good morning, everyone. It is September 21st, the last 8 a.m. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum present. We do have Councilman Grafita is online virtual with us this morning, as is our general manager, Mr. Pearl, who was called out of town unexpectedly, but he is with us virtually online. And I'm not sure, is Member Hayes online?
I'm here, sir.
And Member Hayes is also online. So we'll go ahead and call to order. Like I said, this agenda provides an opportunity for citizens to address the board of directors with any agenda item for other matters related to the NTMC. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to address any item. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. Citizens that are not able to connect to the Zoom meeting must email his or her public comment to sspell@ntmc.com no later than 12 p.m. on Friday, September 16, 2022 to ensure the comment is read. The board of directors is not permitted to take action on any subject raised by the speaker during citizen comments. However, the board of directors may have the item placed on a future agenda for action, refer the item to the MC officers for further study or action, briefly state existing NTMC policy, or provide a brief statement of factual information in response to the inquiry. Do you have anyone citizen that wish to speak, anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, we have no one wishing to speak, so we will move forward. We do have item 1 there. You can see we have the informational report. We do have a full agenda today. So if you have any questions on the information, please speak up and ask me. If not, it's all been presented to you. If you do, let me know and we'll stop and go over that. So you make any questions on the information reports that were sent out? Item 1A. Okay, hearing none, then we will move forward to the regular agenda. Presentation of General Manager's monthly report. Ms. Pearl, if you could kind of just briefly go over some of that issue so that we can kind of get down to the discussion of the approval of the NTMC budget for fiscal year 2023. Mr. Pearl.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the org chart, that is, you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the org chart, it lists the vacancies, and we are continuing to hire for those vacancies. We do have 2 new hires, one dispatcher and one, excuse me, one bus operator.
Maurice, just a second. You're referring to the org chart on page 25 of the board packet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, we'll give everybody a chance to get there.
Thank you, Paul.
We good, Mr. Bushy? It's on page 25 of the board packet.
No,
There's a red number at the bottom of the page.
That's okay. Yeah, I think that's right. I think you're looking at the wrong packet. Should be this packet right here.
No,
The thick one, that one right there. There you go. All right, not a problem. All right. We'll make sure you're able to see
They
it.
throw a lot of paper at you. So part of it is just, can you figure out which papers to look at?
Make sure we're agreeing to 25. There it is. I found it.
Perfect. All right, go ahead, Maurice.
All right, thank you. On the org chart, you can see the vacancies up in the upper left-hand corner on the org chart. Again, we did hire one dispatcher and one bus operator, and continuing to recruit for majority of the bus operators. We do have a couple of other positions that we're looking at and have some candidates that have applied for the position, so we'll continue with the recruitment and hiring of those vacant positions. Any questions regarding the org chart?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. On the performance metrics, if we could go down to.
Just a second, Maurice, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So what is the total authorized or budgeted positions in NTMC coming into the fiscal year 2023 budget? What represented by this chart?
We currently have 88 positions. I believe we'll have 98 to 100 positions that are budgeted.
All right, so 98 to 100 budgeted. 81 or so filled.
Correct.
Okay. And then HTG adds how many positions on top of that for your professional services contract?
3 positions: the safety manager, assistant general manager, and general manager.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. On the performance metrics, if we can go down to the 5th slide, that's the ridership for fixed route and UNT. And we do see a slight increase in ridership. And on the 6th slide, it's a total for all routes, and that's the waterfall graph, and that is per route. So you can view that. And I want to thank.
Wait a minute. Now we switch packet.
Yeah, now I'm seeing.
Okay.
Rest of me.
We're jumping around to different packets.
Yeah, it's back. There's no page numbers on this last one.
It's a PowerPoint.
It's in this one.
Yeah, no, it starts like this. Looks like this.
Oh, is it in here? Yes. Okay.
We'll make sure that that's cleaned up quite a bit for the next one, so we're not jumping around too much. Apologize for that.
All right, I'm caught up.
Okay, and DCTA did provide these ridership slides, so I want to thank them for sending those to us, and we were able to get that in there. So I believe the next slide. Okay, and then
Reese, I will say the good thing was that the last email that was sent out, Sean, yesterday, I believe, did include all of these packets in one email.
Yeah.
So you were able to look at each one of these independently and follow along.
yes. Yes, I appreciate that. Thanks. And the next slide. And you can see the Connect ridership. And then we had a slight increase, of course, in August. We're going to see a decrease May, June, July due to summer, and then a increase in ridership in August with students coming back.
I'm
And
kind of new at this. So can I ask a question?
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it's
Yeah. In 2019, the line is very high. And the one that we're currently here, it's very, very low in 2022. Is there some explanation of why everything is going down rather than going up? Or
COVID-19.
COVID-19, is that what it is? Okay,
It dropped off dramatically
okay.
beginning probably March
Mhm.
of 2020.
So we're still suffering under COVID-19.
Well, it's starting to pick back up.
Okay.
The line is starting to pick back up.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the orange line is 2020. You see the drop
Yeah,
between February to April. And this reflects what's happening with many transit industries across the country.
okay, thank you. That's what I thought it might be.
Okay, next slide, please. I believe the next slide is going to be our waterfall. And we can go to, there we go. Okay, and that's by route. So again, appreciate the coordination and collaboration with DCTA and getting these slides. It's much appreciated. You can see the waterfall slide here, the graph, and ridership per route. And then the next slide. And this is UNT ridership by month. And of course, you're going to see the same spike going into August. And you're going to see that the ridership is significantly lower. And that was based on the COVID and getting the ridership back, as Paul had stated. Any questions regarding the ridership metrics? If not, there should be a sheet in front of you. It's a driver pool availability. Board member Christina had asked for that. And
Oh, you're looking, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the diagram, sorry. Yes. Okay.
okay, thank you. So what we did and appreciate operations and Sean and Drew working on this and coordinating and getting this done. So it does what it does is it goes by route. So if a route goes uncovered, then it turns red, and then depending on when that route is covered, then down at the bottom it'll change colors. And so if it's green, then we're good across the board. All services is filled. And once it turns yellow, then we know that we have some open service, and we're having to move around bus operators in order to fill the positions, the runs. Once that color turns orange, then we know that there is staff that is out driving, and then it'll note down at the bottom that staff is driving. And then once it turns red, then we know that we need to start looking at service reductions. And then we had discussed that briefly in the past on what that would be, but it would be the lower performing routes that we would be looking at. But it's going to be interfaced with the master list or a master worksheet in dispatch. So as the dispatchers make adjustments to routes and filling the routes, it does pull from that, and it'll be instantaneous on what level that we're at. This is in Teams, so it is accessible. And any questions regarding that?
I'm new, so I'm gonna ask probably a dumb question. Is there anything we can do as far as our own cities are concerned to essentially help with this, or help make sure that if there are some routes that are not being covered, or there are routes that are not getting any people, that we can go to the city, city manager or whatever and say, hey, we've got a problem here. Is there any way you can help us? Is there any way of doing that so that the city actually gets involved in making things better rather than just not having much of an idea of how things are going?
And I think that warrants further discussion, and that's something that board member Christina and I would be able to discuss and see what the availability would be on something like that, to make sure that we do continue service for all levels.
I'm thinking that would be a very complicated issue in the fact that you would have, if you're talking about drivers, basically the.
Well, I'm still trying to understand what's going on here. To me, it's ridership is what I was concerned about. It looks like there might be some places that basically the ridership is not what we would expect it to be. Is there anything we can do?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I live there. I don't have anything that takes me all day to work on, and so I have plenty of time to go around to the places I'm. Highland Village in particular. And I know that Highland Village is probably not participated as well as they should have, and I want to make sure that changes. And so basically, I guess what I'm doing is I'm asking you all, what is it I can do to essentially help the ridership increase as far as that particular, in particular, that particular city, because that's the one I represent, and that's the one I know the most.
Well, to me on that would be just contacting your local city and asking them how can they help participate in encouraging the citizen to use the facility. I've misunderstood. I thought we were talking about helping us provide drivers, which is what we discussed.
No, I'm more concerned about
the ridership.
we are not participating in the amount that we should be based upon where it is we are and how fast we're growing. There's a number of opportunities for DCTA there that have not even been approached as far as I can tell. And I know we've talked a bit, Paul and I have talked a little bit about this, but if there's a way of putting together some sort of a program so that somebody like me can go around and say, hey, have you guys thought about, or can you do this, or would this make sense to you? In the place where I live, it's going to make a lot of sense because it's more or less a captive audience. But as far as the whole city is concerned, there may be other places, because it's not that they don't like DCTA. I think it's just the fact that they don't really realize how great this place is.
So that what you're describing is really a marketing and communications effort that falls under the purview of the DCTA organization. And so you're right, we've had conversations about that, and certainly I think we've got time set up after this actually. To talk about that. Right. The reason this conversation is important is because if we don't have enough drivers to provide the service, then nobody's going to get a ride. And so I appreciate Maurice and the NTMC staff putting this together. And it looks like it's a step in the right direction. I think there's a cover letter or a cover form that goes on top of this. Or in other words, this is the meat behind what we need at this board level and at the DCTA executive level, which is every day that we wake up, what status are we with regard to driver availability? If we're green, we have all the drivers we need and we have a full extra. If we're yellow, it means we got all the drivers we need and our extra board is thin. If we're orange, it means we got drivers, but we got no extra board. If it's red, it means we are not making service. So how does this turn into that sort of stoplight chart? Like I said, I think this is a step in the right direction, but we need to understand how close to the edge are we living day to day based on driver availability and the service that's on the street. So this looks like is what's needed to get to that point. So maybe next month we can see, okay, here's how we turn this into a 1-page 8.5 by 11 report that is on a dashboard that we can keep in front of us at all times. That makes sense, Maurice?
Sure, it absolutely does. You know, we wanted to make sure that that got out to you and the board, so you could see that we do have this on in the background, and it start implementing that next week. But yes, having more of a of an outline of what took place during the month, we will certainly do going
And
forward.
and to be clear, I'm not talking about what happened. The dashboard that I'm looking for is not what happened last month, but what are we looking at for the week that's ahead, or what are we looking at today? Because if we're
Right.
red last week and I find out the week after, then it doesn't, we've missed service. So
Yeah.
I know that you and I have talked about, there were days where NTMC staff were driving buses. So that should tell me that at some point we were yellow or orange or red in the course of the last week, and that's what I'm looking to see here. So again, I think this is a good step in the right direction to be able to get to that point. But how do we know 1 week ahead, 1 month ahead, based on people who are calling out for vacation, or what we expect sick time to be in any given month of the year, to know how healthy we are from a driver pool perspective?
Mhm. And we can forecast that out. This sheet that you have in front of you is a daily sheet, so that's in Teams, and you can go in and look at that in the morning and see where we're at. You can go and look at it during the day, see where we're at. What I was talking about reporting to the board would be monthly, where we were at during the previous month, and how close or how not close we were to not providing service, and again, and your words, how healthy we are as far as being able to provide the service. But that is a daily sheet that is in Teams and is accessible. So at any point during the day, you would be able to go in to Teams and look at that and know exactly where we're at for driver availability and who's driving at that point.
Okay. So that makes sense, and we're on the same page that this gets boiled up one level to this sort of advanced look that day to day, I'm not going to be able to, DCTA staff or executives aren't going to be able to digest the 3 pages of the spreadsheet, so we'll be able to boil it to a place that it's clear, like the stoplight, where we are.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Any other questions regarding the driver pool availability? If not, if we can go to the next slide, please, to the wage comparison chart. Okay. And this was requested last month, and we just did get the information back from Trinity Metro. So this is a complete chart that we have, and went up. Trinity Metro went up quite a bit, but this is comparison to our peers in the immediate vicinity. And it goes by month on here, and what the wage is. The graph line, you can see that's denoted down at the bottom, which one that represents, or which organization is represented by that. So as you look through that, NTMC is on the lower side or the low side of the wage. And in speaking with the ATU, they are discussing with DART also, so that there's potential that may change as well. And so we may see some differences there, but once if there are any modifications or adjustments to this, then we'll add that in there and then put this, show this back to the board so they can see that.
One question on this report. Can you know what is the difference between on DART, the smart bus operators and the regular bus operators? There's big disparity there on their wages, and I think that might be helpful, this comparison.
Sure. Okay, and I would have to look into that to
Looks
accurately
like
tell
one
you.
is CDL and the other one is non. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, the smart, there's CDL and non-CDL, but then under those two, there's the bus and rail operators, and those salaries are much more in line or above NTMC significantly, or the DART are significantly below, so I'm trying to get a good understanding of the difference there.
And your smart bus operators are typically your access.
Yeah, I don't, this is the first time I've seen this.
Sure, yeah, it's totally different from the bus operator.
Right.
I don't know why they've got it.
If you group together.
Yeah, Maurice, if you just look into why they have it, or why that's.
Sure.
Good, I would think they'd have that separated out. They may have, it may just be their word.
Yes, sir.
So Maurice, anytime I've encountered human resources folks at any organization for any sort of job, they would say things like, well, you know, the wages is one part of your total compensation. The other part of your total compensation is your healthcare benefits. Look at how
Mhm.
much the company pays for your healthcare versus what you have to pay out of pocket. I've heard that anecdotally about the NTMC wages and benefits relative to DART and others, that people have left NTMC, gone to Trinity Metro or DART and come back because they paid a lot more out of pocket for healthcare, so they realized they were better off driving with us. So how does that factor into this, and how do you tell that complete story to the people you were trying to recruit?
Excuse me. So in regards to this is just a base wage. What we can do for the next meeting would be to add those benefits in there. One thing that we are running up against is getting the wage or the benefit information from the other organizations. So that is taking some time. We have requested that, but it does take time to get that. If we aren't able to get that through regular sources, then we have to do a FOIA request for the benefit information. So it does take a little bit more time. We can do that, certainly do that, and then add another line in here in the graph as far as what the benefits are. But yes, the NTMC benefits are more rich, and going to, as you said, going to another organization, that there is more that comes out of pocket on the benefit side. So we can certainly add that for NTMC, and then for any of the other organizations, once we have that information, we can put that in this graph and present that to the board once we have a complete information.
Okay.
And as we, the other part to your question, board member Christina, once during the interview process, it is noted what the insurance is and what the cost and what is all received. So we do discuss that and make sure that that is a focal point for during our hiring process.
I just, what I see in the marketplace is school districts with school buses on the side of the road and big banners that say, come drive with us. I get messages on LinkedIn and Twitter about signing bonuses for DART drivers and those sorts of things. And I don't see the same thing from the NTMC organization. And so it feels like this is a step to a building block towards being able to do those sorts of things, perhaps to be more aggressive on our recruiting efforts? Or do you have a pipeline of here's the candidates, here's driver candidates we have in the hopper, here's how many we've screened, here's how many we've brought through the process? Like how we know if we have a stoplight chart that says here's how healthy we are today and looking ahead a week, a month, whatever, and then here's the pipeline of driver candidates we have coming in. Something to be able to begin telling that sort of full story would be helpful.
Sure, and HR does keep track of that, and would be more than happy to share that with you and the board.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you, sort of, I'm in the benefits business, health, life, disability, all that, and several other boards. While the writing does have a factor into it, yet so many people today, first thing they want to know is the wage. And if the wage is not suitable, they don't care about the other thing. They want it now. They worry about the other stuff later. Oh, I'll worry about it. That's the reason I think you see people leave and then they come back, because then they understand, they realize it wasn't as green as I thought it.
Right.
However, while it does, I can tell you, I've been in this for over 40 years. You can preach it and preach it and preach it. And it's like, yeah, but how much do I get?
Right.
And so it's really a difficult situation for us to be able to do that. I do agree it helps to promote that. And I'm a big proponent of it, have been all my life. However, it is a very difficult challenge. I think cities and counties have had that same thing until recently. They were always had a lower pay scale, but better benefits. Well, that didn't work so well, so they had to upgrade the pay scale and keep the same level of benefits. And now, from my understanding is, cities and municipalities are pretty much level as far as pay scale with the private sector. And yet the benefits are, I believe, are much better. So, yeah, I think that's what we have to focus on.
Yeah, and I agree. Don't get me wrong. I'm advocating for competitive wages.
Right.
But when we're where we are on this scale, we ought to be saying everything we can about how great all the other stuff is,
And I think a big part of it
to
too,
tell the
Dave,
full
too,
story.
as far as to be able to get drivers. I don't know, but I don't know that I could have a driver bus, but if I did, I think I would rather drive it in this municipality than I would in downtown Dallas,
Right.
or Fort Worth, or something like that, just for my sake.
Yeah.
That's a benefit.
And I believe Cameron can expound on this a little bit more. Cameron, are you available?
Yeah, how are y'all?
Good.
Morning.
What we are finding with recruitment, I mean, NTMC does keep track of all candidates sourced, applied, and interview set up. What we're finding is a lot of interviews, they don't show up. When I talk to candidates about our insurance and benefits, it is definitely, what can I bring home? I understand your benefits are great, and I would love to come on board, but you do not pay enough. That is what we're finding. We're finding a lot of people say that they are interested in the positions, and then don't show up to their interviews. We are finding, we break down during our interviews, we break down every single vision, dental, medical, basic life, basic AD&D, short-term and long-term. We break it down on an hourly scale to include in our compensation package when we present this to the candidates. And they all agree, the benefits are great, but it's what can I take home? What am I able to afford with my paycheck?
And
Thanks, Cameron.
I'm not, I would imagine that's exactly the case. I don't argue with you at all there. And so, but in the meantime, we are paying a certain amount for benefits. It goes up every year. And so I'm interested in how are we communicating those to the folks? Because if this board will advocate for wage increases for drivers, I'm anticipating the DCTA board is going to say, well, look at how much we're already paying. Let's talk about the full package, and therefore let that make an impact on what the wage increase is, so that we can be competitive from a total compensation perspective, recognizing that the hourly wage is a very important part, just like you said.
Cameron, don't feel like you're alone. Almost all businesses nowadays are
Yes.
having the same exact
Yes,
thing.
I've had multiple conversations with Trinity Metro and DART recently, and they are in the same boat. They're facing the same thing.
However, I do think what Paul is referring to might be a good instance for us to try to develop a campaign strategy on promoting the awareness of our higher than most benefit levels. And you have to be careful in saying that, but I think you understand what I'm saying. In promoting how awesome our benefits are. We having that up front. So if you keep drilling it to people, it does eventually take effect. So it might be a good campaign side, I think.
Yeah, and getting it to a place where we can put it on a sandwich board out in front of the DDTC on every rail platform that we have in front of the city halls of our member cities, like something to make it visible. Again, I see school buses parked on the side of the road and say, come drive with us, see social media ad campaigns, all that sort of thing. I want to make it apparent that we're doing everything that we can to get folks into the.
Would that be, you mentioned earlier, DCTA does the advertising portion, but would that be under the DCTA?
I think it would be a joint effort between the two organizations. We need NTMC to develop the content that says, here's the cartoon with the happy person who just got a job with DCTA because this is their great benefits. And then we can help mobilize and put that out there. So
Good idea.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Absolutely.
If you go to Louisville City Hall, I was there last week or 2 weeks ago. They have a sandwich board out in front that says, here's we need all these different people. Here's the pay. You drive down the road. Highland Village has got variable message signboards on the side of the road. Come work for Public Works. I mean, it's it. Everybody's in the game. We need to be in the game too.
And that's exactly right. The difference we could be is those boards are giving pay. They're not saying anything about benefits.
Right.
They don't restrict that. Maybe that's where we could attack it, is on the side of competitive pay, superior benefits, something like that. Don't get me wrong, city, I'm not saying they don't, but they're not having to advertise it as much.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you all for the conversation on this.
Thank you. And that concludes my report.
So we're now down to item 2C, is that right? On discussion and consider approval of the fiscal year 2023 budget.
I believe that we have 2B, and that's a KPI briefing by DCTA.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Troy Rayleigh. I'm the Senior Director of Mobility Services. What I want to present to you here today is, a few minutes ago, you saw the high-level reporting for the ridership. This is more granular. This gets into the what's behind those ridership numbers. And in this first slide here, what you see here is passenger counts, the number of scheduled trips, and this is for a 1 week period. This is the week of the 4th. And then the number of completed trips. In the second group, you've got the OTP. And the next one, you got PPH, which is your passengers per hour. And then the last group, you have missed trips. The reason this is incomplete is because we don't have the data yet. We're 3 weeks out on data right now. And the agency is trying to get to the point where we're making decisions based off of data. It's all data driven. And what's important to us is that we make the right decisions based off of what we know service to be and how it's performing. And currently, we're not getting the data in a timely manner that we would like to see from the NTMC staff. So once this is completed, then why this is important to you is the OTP determines whether the bus was on time or not. And what that impacts is the number of passengers. So if people can't catch the bus on time, your ridership's going to be impacted in a negative manner. Delayed starts. And so as this evolves, we'll be able to tell you what that impact is on these individual riders based off of performance issues. So next slide. This is a 4-week rolling and the same data that you just saw for 1 week. Here you can see a better comparison because we do have some backfilled data. You can see that between August 21st and 28th is when UNT came into session for the fall. You can see the spike in ridership there. September 4th was a holiday, so we have one less day of service during that period. So it was proportionate to the level of service we have. The PPH has jumped dramatically. During the summer, we're running, anywhere from 6 to 10 people per hour at UNT. And then once school comes in session, we're hitting up around the high 40s for passengers per hour, which is very productive. But at the same time, your number of scheduled trips jumps. In the fall, in the August timeframe, when school comes back in session, a lot of the routes go from a 1 bus service to a 4 bus service to meet the demand for the capacity. The fixed route system in Denton remains the same.
Can I ask you a question? And there may be all kinds of rules that say you can't do. Okay, and since I don't know all the rules. It would seem to me, and I'm speaking from Highland Village standpoint, I don't know whether this is true in Denton as well as Lewisburg. We have a mess every single day that the school is open, with people having their kids driving up and having to sit in line to let them out at the front door. Now, technically, these folks could ride probably a school bus, but the school buses run around with 3 or 4 people generally. Is there any way to work into helping that situation so that you cut down on the amount of traffic that is in the city, as well as the amount of time that's wasted by parents taking the kids to school because for whatever reason, they're not real happy with being transported by a school bus? Have you guys looked at that? Am I way off base on why that's occurring? But it would seem to me it's because they don't know there's an alternative to what may be offered by the school, number one. And number two, the school may have certain restrictions that cause us not being able to help. So just a general question, has this been discussed with LISD and so on and so forth about how can we help the situation? Now, I can't speak for any place other than Highland Village, but I can tell you in Highland Village is a traffic mess.
Well, student transportation generally falls under the purview of the school district itself. We don't engage in that because they provide their own transportation. Now, for the morning commute and afternoon commute, no. But we have had programs in the past, especially in Louisville, where we did provide transportation for special needs students outside of their system. And that was a good program. We've taken them to work and so on and so forth. But as far as the daily commute, no, there has not been any dialogue for that. Because
is this a legal reason, or is this because we haven't been to the point of even considering it?
well, there's several reasons. Even our policy, we don't allow children under a certain age to ride the vehicle without adults. So some sort of accompanying adult. So we're not into the pupil transportation. That's just not our area.
So, Board Member Bushy, I'll jump in here as the DCTA interim, and we'll talk about this here in a minute. We expect our board will give us a ridership goal, 2030 vision, say, give us a plan to achieve ridership, and we're going to have to look at everything in order to drive to deliver that goal. As a parent with kids in a charter school in Flower Mound that lives in a car line, I can tell you this thought has crossed my mind before, but there's a number of things like Tori just said that we've got to work through and evaluate. Stage. No idea should be dismissed.
So you think it's worth at least looking?
I'm telling you, yeah, no idea should be dismissed at this stage. And now I'm sure that there's a federal rule book that's this long and a state rule book and an LISD rule book, and there's all these rule books we're gonna have to read and figure out how to weave our way through all that. But it's something that's been on my mind as well. Like I said, LISD is one thing, public charter schools are another, private schools are another. There's all sorts of different angles to that. It's an idea.
Yeah, it is. And then there's federal level for restrictions on chartering and some other things. So there's a lot of strings there. And so, but
Well, I
yeah, we
figured
could
there
look at it.
probably was, but I thought since I see it every day, at least I'm gonna do is say something.
Right.
And, if you all would look at that, that's fantastic.
As an informational point, our reporting to the federal government, now that we're on that, is the fixed route is what's known as exceptional based. When we build a schedule, we understand that we're gonna operate this many trips, we're gonna operate this many hours during this period, and we're gonna operate this many miles. And so that's the plan, and that's what we have as a base. Now, what happens is when we don't make that service, it has to be logged and recorded for us to, and that's what you see reflected here in missed trips and late starts, because we have to report hours and miles of operation. And so we depend on NTMC's operation to report back to us their activities when there's an exception to the planned service. And that's what this is reflecting here on your scheduled trips and your missed trip percentages. The OTP is the late starts, and then you see the delayed starts. These are all important to us because they indicate quality of service that we're giving to the public. Any questions on those particular items?
By looking at it, what does it tell? I mean, what does it tell you? What should we see? Are we doing okay? Are we doing terrible? Are we approaching doing what we need to do and so on and so forth? Is there a way of understanding how you all feel about how we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Take OTP, for instance. Our expectation is 90% OTP. When they fall below 90%, then we've got a problem. And with that, how that impacts people is, especially people that are trying to get to work or to doctor's appointments. When you don't get there on time, you miss your appointment or you're late. And so it's very important the quality of service is delivered that's 90% or better. Now, there's other issues involved here, being especially in Denton, where you have street closures every day and detours. But for the most part, sorry, Mr. Gaines.
We're just getting things done.
But we shoot for a 90%. 90% is realistic. It's not that hard to obtain. So, and the delayed starts are usually due to an operational issue. Had a mechanical issue with the bus or the operator or whatever. And these are pretty high.
The reason this is important, and I'll speak as on the DCTA side of my role, is we run an operational transportation business. And we have to know what our operation is doing. The biggest problem with these metrics right now, and Maurice and John and I have, and Troy have been on the phone about this over the course of the last few weeks. The biggest challenge that we have is that we're looking 2 to 3 weeks in arrears on how performance was. We need to be daily, but we'll settle for weekly at this point. And so what we're doing as a DCTA leadership team is every week getting in front of these saying, okay, what does this format need to look like? How does this report need to be presented? And then ultimately be able to say, why were we only at 80% OTP last week? What are the systemic issues that need to be addressed and resolved? We've had conversations with David and his team about, being able to communicate with one another on detours and routes and all that sort of stuff. Well, I'm not sure how much of the problem is related to that versus just not getting the buses out of the barn on time. And so we got to get this right before we can start resolving those sorts of challenges and having better communication with all of our stakeholders. And so we run an operational business. We need to have our metrics in front of us in real time.
Thank you. That was what I was hoping I was doing.
Yeah, it's very important to us. So, and we need it, the larger the lag, the more the negative impact we have. So.
One other thing I'd point out is the passenger count on this page, back to August 28th, you can see the jump in the ridership overall with the UNP going back in session on August the 29th. Troy, what's the reason the September 4th week has that drop off?
The holiday.
Labor Day.
We only had 4 days service weekday.
Kids would be off school.
Yeah, every once in a while they let them off. Exactly. Any more questions on this particular slide? Yeah, hopefully we can help inform you guys, the board, as to what this means and how this works, to help you have a better understanding. So that's the objective. Next slide, please. That last slide was, this is the fixed route system. We have two modes of transportation. That is the fixed route, which is, you know, the bus goes down the same path. There we go. And it has a set schedule. The demand response piece is where you see the little buses that are going around, they're picking up individuals and taking them from point A to point B. So it's more of a door-to-door type service. And for what we have here is we're listing Highland Village, Denton, Frisco, and Lewis. That's how we break down our service areas. Passenger count, as you can see, Denton has the majority of it. But we carry I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but the passenger count is averaging in the 400 usually. The week of the 28th was off for some reason. It's probably due to the trips have not been verified yet. So there's incomplete data there. These type services provide services to anyone that is in holding of a Medicare card. They can either be over 65 or have some form of impairment, either physical or mental. These are people that live in our communities that need daily transportation, whether it's to work or to doctor's visits or whatever that they have going on in their lives. That's a key part of our service because fixed route system doesn't give them the extra service that they need, given their impairment. So, and we try to shoot, going to the passengers per hour, we try to shoot for 2 passengers per hour on this service. We're falling below that in some areas. Highland Village, Highland Village in the last week that we have reported here was over 2 passengers. It hit the goal, so it was productive. And the others are teetering close to the 2 passengers per hour that we would like to see. So part of our funding or federal funding is all based off of our performance. So we try to be productive with the hours spent and passengers that we transport. So, and as you can see in the trip count, it is incomplete data. So we have not had the data that we need to complete this chart. As you can also see, in August, we have anomaly 28th, we have a lot of missed trips. Missed trips are because the operator had operator issue, vehicle issue, or whatever. And this is not what we want to see. We want to be able to provide the service, especially when it comes to ADA, those type trips, we're required to provide this service from the federal government. So cancellations are usually the people have changed their mind. The system works in a way that they have to book in advance. You have up till 5 o'clock to book a trip for the next day. So, and then we get cancellations throughout the day as well. So OTP again is, as you can see, in some areas is way below the 90% we're hoping for. And we need to address that and find out why that is. Is that a scheduling issue or what that is? The software, the trip goes into the software and the software puts together the trip, and sometimes they get off track. So any questions on this, Mr. Gaines?
I don't have a question. I do have a comment, and I know we have a package in this, so I'll make it brief. I am encouraged to hear that y'all are having the conversations on trying to improve the reporting. So I certainly agree. It seems to me, I mean, some of these seem like they're obviously important metrics and basic metrics that we should have for, I would think, the day prior, the day of, and not multiple weeks back. But I encourage you to hear having the conversations. I think what I would ask in TMC is, as you're having those conversations, what are the needs that y'all have to get to the point where you can have the reporting? Is it more administrative staff? And then what is the relationship with DCTA? I'm open to whatever it is to make sure that that relationship's working, that you have the resources are there so that that you can have data that actually helps you function and make decisions on a day-to-day basis. So just to make that one comment, but I am encouraged to hear that the conversations are going on.
And NTMC can certainly piggyback on this in response to that comment, but this is I feel like as an organization, this is a learning process for us. I mean, as a DCTA staff, we've had to, again, weekly get together and say, okay, what is it that we ought to be reporting on? What is it that we ought to be having in front of us? We've been talking about ridership since 2019. We've got policy decisions now made that allow us to move forward on growing ridership. Now we have to look at the other pieces, which is the service metrics and the safety metrics and all that sort of stuff. So through the process of understanding what it is that we need to be reporting and having in front of us, that's going to help NTMC get their wheels and mechanisms turning together.
Absolutely. Any more questions on the demand response? Next slide. Okay, so these metrics are alluding to the vehicle availability, the condition of the fleet, and then also the performance of the operators. For the VOMs and the VAMs, and VOMs are vehicles operated at maximum service. And then VAMs are vehicles available at maximum service. So that's how we gauge the reliability of our fleet, by looking at what we have available, what we don't have available. And then part of that too is how many road calls we're having, and they're classified in two different forms. Another road call is that the vehicle was repaired or the issue was addressed while it was still in service. Whereas a major is when the vehicle has to be pulled from service, another vehicle has to be put in. So the federal government looks at these measures as well to see if we're maintaining our assets properly. Complaints and preventable accidents and non-preventable accidents are measures for the operators, how they're performing. Complaints obviously would all the complaints are checked. We check all the complaints to verify that there's a valid complaint there, because sometimes you get the system is manually, they go into the system and they put in a complaint. Most of the time, we find that a lot of them, they repeat the same complaint over and over 3 times in one day. But when we do get a complaint that's like an operator based, and we turn to whichever service that is, like in this, if it's a NTMC operator, then Sean will look into it and find out, was it valid? Sometimes it's as simple as the bus wasn't there. We use software to verify that the bus was there at that time. So it's an invalid complaint. It's just a person missed the bus and they were upset by that. So any questions on these? And as we go through these in the future, we can dig in more and more on these.
So looking at it, what would you suggest, or what would you suggest we are doing well, and what would you suggest we aren't doing well? Do you have a thought based upon looking at this that there are specific issues that may be causing the problem? Or am I reading too much into those?
No, overall, it's very good. I mean, because your major road calls, I mean, obviously we had a lot the week of September 4th, which is without digging into the details of what that is, but it's measured per 100,000 miles. So, we're allowed 1 per 100,000 miles is what the expectation is. And so we're well within reason on the maintenance or on the fleet side of things. As far as accidents go, no one wants to have any accidents, but it is within the allowable margins. So, but it's something that we want to watch and trend and see that we're still falling within reason. So,
Wonder what might help with the question is if we make the bottom, we do some type of little dashboard that shows green is acceptable, yellow is, and I'm just using.
Okay.
Green is acceptable, yellow is a concern, and red is something that we need to really do. Just to, not spending a lot of time, I'm not trying to create work for you. Just a dashboard where you feel comfortable with what's going on, where you feel there's a need.
yeah,
Now, that would be very
We-
helpful.
we could do it in this section down here, what the number is. Does that work?
Yeah, well, on the GoZone side, we got into reading the ratio, the incidents per 100,000 miles, and maybe it's as simple as that, just showing that rolling graph, and here's the line, and we're below the line.
Yeah, 'cause overall, we want to get into a 4-week so we can project out and see how we're trending. Whereas with the monthly reporting, like Paul stated, it's done. It's history now. So
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Oh. quite welcome. Anytime you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we're more than happy to help.
Okay, now we look about 3C, the discussion of the set approval of the 23 budget document. If you remember, everyone, Mr. Pearl sent all of us a email back on August the 17th with quite a bit of information, and he addressed in that there would be you see there there was 3 attachments with, and on the first one, he had the savings or the 2023 budget, and it had an increase of $232,763.99 additional cost savings benefits. And he asked if you did have any questions to please respond to him, not to all, but to him individually, so that he wouldn't be violating anything. I understand Mr. Pearl, he did not get any questions from anyone. So I'm assuming everything was okay. Everyone was okay with that. Isn't that correct, Mr. Pearl?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would,
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, I would like to make note that there, under professional services, there's a large increase, 158,000. That was a safety position that was budgeted on the NTMC budget, and that was moved over to HTG. So the benefits and pay was moved over to HTG. So that increased the professional services line item. So that's the explanation behind that.
Also on that, wasn't there also did we do a 3% increase for the HTG employees on that contract?
Correct. Yes. So in addition to that, there was a annual increase. Yes.
Okay. And this is what you presented to DCTA for them to calculate our budget, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I think everyone can see in the agenda package on the initial, the last page. Right packet, I think it's the last page of the packet where it had the organizational chart, the one that had the organizational chart in it. Thick version. Yeah, the thick version of this one here. On the last page of that, it has the proposed budget. You can see the difference in there. Ms. Pearl, I'll let you explain the difference from the 232,000 cost savings that was actually shown there, and where this has actually got an increase. Can you kind of explain that difference to us?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During that time, from the time that was sent until this is presented to the NTMC board, the elective to go above the 3% increase for employees up to 5%, as well as a one-time inflationary benefit to employees. With that in mind, that has basically become a wash, and then the increase would be the 73,000 and change there. Increase to the budget.
Okay, and from what I understand, from talking with Mr. Christina, while the 5% increase, which DCTA wanted to go instead of the 3, offset some of that, all that cost savings. And then the other one, the one-time adjustment because of the inflation, that is calculated into this budget proposal here. However, what I understand, Mr. Christina, that has not actually been approved by DCTA yet. So is that correct?
That's correct. And if Amanda, are you out for? So there's a question about the $1,000 potential for a $1,000 inflationary payment. And the fact that it's not approved by the DCTA board, it would also have to be approved by this board. But the way that was posited was as a payment out of the FY22 funds, correct?
Correct, out of budget savings.
So it should not be a part of the FY22.
No, it is not.
Okay. So
Okay. What is the difference between so is it the 2% increase that what Mr. Christina sent DCTA with the $232,000 savings? Now it's over that. What caused that? Just the 2% increase?
Between August and September, yes, originally we had the 3.5% in, but that 3.5% only applied to non-operators, as it always has in the past. And so after discussing with the DCTA board and the NTMC board, last month, we made the adjustment to increase it to 5%, but it also is extended to all NTMC staff, including all of the operators.
Okay. So that is what caused the offset of the $232,000 savings to an adjustment of about an $80,000 increase from last year from and maybe you can explain this while you're too. Just for people that don't know, the 2022 adopted budget and the 2022 working budget. Can you explain exactly what that means?
The adopted budget is, as it states, what was adopted last September. The working budget involves any budget revisions that have happened year to date. So I don't know off the top of my head, but I know the fixed route, but service extension was approved, I think, in November. That's included in there. I think there's only been 2 for NTMC that affected the NTMC budget, but it's just the budget as it stands with any revisions that have been approved.
That's what I thought. So actually our comparison would be the 2023 proposed budget to the 2022 working budget.
Yes.
Would be the good comparison.
and remind me, Amanda, the 2022 adopted budget for NTMC included the anticipation of a number of bus routes to be cut that were not actually cut, and so therefore there was an adjustment upward. Is that the reason for that? It's about $800,000.
Yes, we had the fixed route services ending, I believe, in December, like, across the board.
Right.
In the initial 2022 budget.
I know I had received some questions from the city of Louisville as to why the budget was increased and did decrease, because we're told that it would decrease because of the route. But what you're telling me is our decrease, we can show that the 230,000 will be enough with their approval to go to a 5% increase and include all employees.
And
Which I'm not complaining about, I'm just trying to get an explanation.
And I expect that we'll have conversation about this with the DCTA board tomorrow as well. The fact is the budget savings from the most recent service reduction is 5% of the overall NTMC budget. I think we need to understand, what is the DCTA board's expectations about how the budget for the bus service should be reflecting what's on the street right now, given that a large portion of that or a majority of that service is UNT service. And so Maurice and John and I and Troy are having conversations about the 100 or so authorized positions in the NTMC budget, and which of those, what of those reflect maybe the way the service was before versus which of those reflect maybe the way the service is now. So there's a conversation to be had. Makes sense.
Ms. Pro, did you have any other comments on that?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any questions? You're presenting to us. So with that, hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion, because I believe we need to make a motion on that. Is that right, Counselor?
Yes, need to make a motion to approve the resolution.
That's what I thought. So moved. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Butcher, second by Dave, excuse me, I'm sorry. One more discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. That brings, excuse me, down to, oh, I'm losing my voice here, D2D. Discuss the Denton County Transportation Part key message and future goal setting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll let the first slide come up on the screen, and this board has asked for, rightly, hey, give us some idea about where is the bus operation going? Where is DCTA as an agency going? So on and so forth. And I can assure you that's a big conversation happening with the DCTA board and staff as well. The good news is we've made a lot of progress on that topic over the course of the summer. And so I just want to give you a flyover about what that is and what the conversation is. And the bottom line is that the bus operation, especially by virtue of the service decision that the board of directors of DCTA made back in July, the bus operation is a key part of where the agency needs to go in the future. And so back in the summertime, the headline and that picture there is from Denton Record Chronicle. The DCTA board got together and had a good conversation with a facilitator, a professional marketing communications facilitator, to help understand why we exist. What is it that we want to accomplish? And that led to these things called key messages that emerged. And that facilitator took everything she heard from the board and turned it into these key messages. And those key messages are on the left-hand side of the slide. And this is not a mission statement. That's mission, vision, core values, all that sort of stuff is coming. But this is the essence of what it's beginning to emerge as what we want to be about at DCTA. We want to get people where they need and want to go. Where they need to go is important. Where they want to go is just as equally important. And what that means is we need to be a service provider, or we aspire to be a service provider of choice, not just something that people use if they don't have any other option, but because we have a superior product that the marketplace says, hey, this is the best way for me to get from here to there. The reason is because there's a lot of households in Denton County that have more than 2 cars in the driveway. A lot of households in Denton County that have incomes that are higher than what would typically be apparent from the transit dependent population. But then we also have this transit dependent population that we need to make sure we serve excellently. And so that's why you see the conversation that we just had about how we deliver our service. And buses are a part of that. We want to make it easy for the rider. It should be easy for a person to understand our system, get a ride on our system, and get where they want to go. Happy customers mean repeat customers, which means more ridership, which is what we're all about. And then being part of driving a better future for Denton County as the 6th fastest growing county in the country, a county that is moving northward with the rest of the Metroplex. We have a network that is oriented northward from our member cities to our A train. We need to be a part of the future of Denton County and making this continue to be a place that people want to not just move to, but live in the long term. And so we'll measure success on that in a number of different ways, but it boils down to safety, service, and ridership. We've been talking about ridership for a long time over the course of the last few years since our board was reconstituted. Now, as you see this morning, we're pivoting our focus to safety and service, and that those 3 things need to be top of mind. My vision, our vision, staff's vision for this agency is that those metrics are literally scrolling on TV screens in the DDPC and in this lobby and in the places where people are congregating, so that we can, as a staff and as board members, remember what we're trying to be about and what we're trying to accomplish. So next slide, please. So this is a graph that shows, and this is in your packet, in the fat packet. This is a slide that we've talked with our DCTA board members about, and And it anticipates potentially the establishment of a 2030 ridership goal. We're into 2023 is about 3.5 months from now. And so if the DCTA board were to say, staff, give us a plan to deliver X number of rides by 2030, we need to understand maybe what's the right sort of goal to set. And so this graph shows how the red line is 3.1 million riders in fiscal year 2016 is the best that DCTA has ever done. That's the high water mark. In 2021, you see that we were less than 1 million riders. That's the orange line. And you see in 2022, we anticipate we'll be over 2 million riders. So, and that's really driven largely by the GO Zone service and the recovery of riders on the UNT service, the Connect service, A-Train, and so on and so forth. But GO Zone is what puts us back over towards doubling ridership. And so if we continue to recover, if we continue to grow riders the way that we've been recovering since the pandemic, that's about a 10% annual growth. That would get us to just short of 6 million riders by 2030. That's the green line, the dashed green line you see. I think that's pretty aggressive. I'm not sure that anybody would sign up to say we're going to grow 10% every year until the end of the decade. However, the blue line is how Denton County's population has grown from 2018 to 2030. And that's about 3.3% per year annual population growth. So if we started with where we're going to end up in 22 and just projected out 3.3% annual growth, we would end up at about 3 million riders by 2030, or back just around probably the peak, the best that we ever were. And so that envelope between just short of 6 million riders and about 3 million riders, there's a sweet spot in there somewhere that perhaps the DCTA board says, give us a plan to deliver that many riders. And then it's incumbent upon DCTA staff to say, here's what we believe each one of these modes that we offer can deliver in each one of our member cities. And it also means that we have to expand our services into places that we don't offer service right now. There are large parts of Denton County that don't get services from Denton County Transportation Authority. And such a plan would say, perhaps they should. And so that's a really important fundamental about where we're headed in the future. So I'll pause there and make sure I'm making sense to you all.
Yeah, I think what the last part of what you said is important. So when you're looking at the growth in the county, you're looking at the entire county. I think we ought to be looking at first our service area.
Mm-hmm.
What's the growth of our service area? And then incorporate the growth of outside our service area. Is that areas that we need to look at moving into?
Right.
And so but you've got some far, I mean, like when you go up north, it's really having an explosion growth. That's a long way for us to go. And
right. We've got to get really good at our core business and the people that we're serving right now. And hence the reason that we're putting these, I had a conversation with somebody on our staff yesterday about why we're spending so much time on these performance KPIs. Right. And the reason is because if we don't perform, then we're not going to be able to do it, just like any business. And so one more slide, please. So this slide is not in your packet. I just threw it in here this morning, but I'm just going to talk to what this is. So the picture on the left is a drawing or an image that came from our service planners at VIA, the people that run the GO Zone service. And it was in a board packet for the DCTA board sometime in the summer, May, June timeframe. And it's a map of the major origin destination pairs of GO Zone trips in the city of Denton. And what you see there is that those blue dots are kind of turning like points on a star that emanate largely around the UNT campus, but also around the downtown Denton Transit Center. And then the map on the right is a picture of the bus service, the bus routes that are active on that DCTA is running today with the UNT semester in full swing. So we've been talking a lot about the Connect network and getting rationalized around what's the right productivity for the Connect network. But really, this is a picture of the entirety of our bus network. And so now part of that business plan and reaching that ridership goal is how do we make these two modes work together so that we can deliver excellent service and increase our ridership overall. And so these pictures or some part of this will likely come back to this board at some time in the future as we continue to do our analysis on where are people trying to go to and from within the city. Now in Louisville and Highland Village, we don't have this. The challenge this isn't the challenge there because there's no fixed route. The challenge there is how do we make sure that everybody who wants a car gets a car, or that we meet the KPIs for the car? But in Denton, our challenge is how do we move the most people over the most efficient means possible? And that's where these two pictures come together. And so, like I said, that's going to be a key. That's why I said it's important that our bus operation run like a business or a really efficient, effective operation, so that if somebody is counting on a bus, they can make sure they get on the bus to get where they want to go. So, any questions on that?
Well, and I think by increasing the amount of people that are taking advantage of those, you're gonna find out where more people are going and then we hopefully come up with routes.
That's exactly right. The Go Zone service gives us a competitive advantage when it comes to route planning, because we're not relying on census blocks and transit use tendencies. We're actually able to see where are people trying to get to and from on a daily basis, by time of day, so on and so forth. And by doing that, this agency will be on the leading edge of transit planning nationally, because this is an idea that people have talked about. And so we'll be one of the ones that get to say, this is how it really works, which is really exciting.
I would just say, I think the way you kind of laid out the policy conversation for the DCT board to kind of put that goal more laid out, I think we move to that next step and they set the goal and you start coming up with a plan for 2030. Coordination with cities is going to be great, because we just went through our comp plan and we're ready to have that discussion. And I know the other cities are as well. So I think looking forward to that. And I think we can be working in tandem, it'll help a lot.
Yeah. We want this. Right. Yeah, so we will be in lockstep with our member cities through this process, for sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that takes me down to item 2E, presentation of the North Texas Mobility Staff Spotlight. Mr. Butler, will you go through that for us, please?
Chair,
Oh.
that would be me.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I apologize.
No worries, sir. No worries at all. All right. This is Mr. Eric Hill Rivera. He's our safety coordinator as well as a road supervisor. He came to the company a little bit after I did, brought him on as a bus operator. He was very energetic and believed in the training and wanted to help with the training. And, as far as the safety aspects of the bus operations, and, I monitored him, I watched him, and I thought he would be a good fit as I was the safety manager at the time, that he would be a good co-worker to have. And that's why I brought him on. And since then, he has taken off. He's led the training for the new bus operators. We've come up with a better training schedule as far as how it outlines where every department is involved in the training, from bus operators to maintenance to HR. Everybody's involved. And he makes it very interesting. The operators love him, and he's definitely a great fit for the company.
Great. Mr. Rivera, are you online with it?
No, he is
Oh,
out
he is
riding
not.
the bus.
I hope you will pass it on to him, how much we appreciate him, and that's it. You can tell by his photo there that he's energetic, he's always happy to work with people and pleasing. You just tell by people's, I think, expressions a lot of time, what type of personality they're gonna show to everyone else and present to the people they work with and to the customers that they deal with. So greatly appreciate your service, Mr. Rivera. If there's anything we can ever do to assist you and help you, please let Sean know, and I'm sure he or Mr. Pearl will bring that to us and get you what you need. We certainly appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir.
Ask any questions or comments on that? Okay, we do not have anything for executive session, I don't believe, do we, Counselor?
We do not.
Okay, so the next thing I want to go over real quick, if we could, is meeting agenda and future board meeting and agenda. One thing on the agenda before we get to the meeting dates, but sometimes that gets convoluted. As you laugh, But David had brought up something earlier, Mr. Pearl, about the reportings of the data that we have. If you could kind of present something to the board on that, on where it stands, where you would like to see it and what you might need to get you there. Whether it be additional staff or what it might be, what it is that you need to get you where you feel comfortable with reporting the information that we need to on a timely manner, as the board would like to see on a timely manner. And I don't mean timely, I can say, but as timely as possible and a look into the future.
Yes, sir.
Would that be good? I think you understand. I wasn't saying you're not doing it on a timely manner. I just need to try to help you get it more caught up to date.
Yes, absolutely. And we, since we've been notified this and working with DCTA staff on this, we have made some adjustments with staff in order to get this going in the right direction. So we are working through this and we're positive about it and know that we will get down to what's being requested of us and reporting in a timely manner.
Right. So we just kind of may put that on the agenda, where you feel we stand and where you want to be and what you need to get you there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I'd also like, I think we already have made the point on this action item, but the next level on driver availability, getting this to a single page and relative to number of drivers needed, number of drivers available, extra board, all that sort of stuff. The next step on that process, and then more details on and maybe just writing down or presenting the details on our driver recruitment pipeline, our competitiveness of pay and benefits, those sorts of things. I want to keep that on this agenda if we could also.
And I think that'd be good. If, like I said, make good one page of a dashboard of where we stand, like you've done on the colors here, what's in green, for us, what's yellow, where we need to improve, and then red where we're really struggling. And then that way we can look at how we need to go, or you can give us ideas what we need to do, get everything over in the green. I'm sure we're never going to get everything over in green, but as much as possible, we can try to stay out of the red. Any other items that we need to put on that agenda? Next board meeting. Mr. Pearl, did you have anything specifically that you wanted to have on the agenda?
No, sir, not at this time.
And Mr. Henderson, I'm glad to see you there, sir. I didn't see you up there, but I did see you've been there the whole meeting, I'm sure, and I just didn't recognize you. And I apologize, sir. You're muted.
Not a problem. I think that, through the discussions that we're having with DCTA, I think moving this to more immediate reporting, I think is going to help everybody. So it's kind of exciting to be working through this.
Right. If in the meantime, anyone has an idea that they'd like to be put on the agenda, if you would please contact Mr. Pearl, let him know, and we'll work with them. If you have a question or something on the team. Anything else? Mr. Profit, I'm gonna get you taken care of. Seeing nothing else, do I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Or do we want to look at
What I missed? I'm sorry.
the meeting date?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, I said I was gonna do that. Meeting day. We typically have the fourth Wednesday. And I know that had created some issues. Is that still not a good time? That would be actually November the 26th, which I will be gone.
Well, it'll be the 23rd of November, which is the day before Thanksgiving.
And October 26th.
October 26th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was skipping November. My mistake.
That's okay. And I will be gone I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. So. Well, I'll be gone that entire week, so I don't know. But y'all can do the meeting without me. I could probably do a Zoom. Does everybody want to continue at the 26th, or is that a good or bad time?
It works for me if you're comfortable with.
I see a Denton, City of Denton Mobility Committee meeting on the calendar at 10 a.m. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to be present at that one or not yet, but
I wouldn't think, if we're gonna just have basically 2 items on the agenda plus the spotlight,
okay,
I wouldn't think it'd be
all right, you know,
a long meeting, so. I'm good. Is 8 o'clock still good for everybody? Let's do that and I will do a Zoom in. And remember, Harris, are you still on board with us? I don't think he's still, okay. We will check with him and let him know about that. Ms. Pearl, is that good with you? October 26th?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is.
Okay. Okay, then let's real quick go to November. Like you said, I don't want to do the 23rd. So I would say we even move it to the 16th or 3rd. I tell you what, let's wait and see. We may not actually have to have a meeting in November if we don't, we can combine the meeting for November, December, because we've got holidays both those months.
I was gonna say, what we've done for DCTA is combined the November, December meeting typically into the first week of December. The DCTA board will determine that date tomorrow. I think December 1st is what's being proposed. Okay, so if we look at the calendar and maybe could pencil in November 30th for this board meeting, that might be a good solution.
Hey, we'll tentatively set that, but we can decide that. For sure. Okay, on the next board. Is that good?
Sean, did that, November 30th?
October 26th for the next meeting, then pencil in the 30th for the following.
Yep.
Okay. 8
8
a.m. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Sorry, I forgot. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Second by David. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank everyone for tuning in. We appreciate your service.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.